Well, welcome to Parenting Through the Phases, Session 4, Talk About What Matters. My name is Morgan. I'm a wife. I am a mom. I've got 4 kids. I've got a bonus daughter who's 17. I have an 11-year-old son. I have a 7-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old daughter. So yes, I am parenting many of the phases right now as we speak. And our bottom line today is that as we're talking about what matters, is that when we think about our kids' life and what we want to be true in the end, it's going to help us do 3 things. It's going to help us to stay focused, prioritize our efforts, and to maintain perspective. In Proverbs 22:6, it tells us to start our kids off on the way that they should go, and when they are old, they will not turn from it. And that sounds great. Sign me up. How do we do that? Because I don't know about you, but parenting is unpredictable. I've had a couple times, not just once, but where my toddler's banana didn't peel the right way. In fact, it broke, and that left her in a puddle on the floor. The day was over. We could not possibly move on from what was going on. Another situation where my 7-year-old daughter, who's typically your sweet, tries to do good, is always doing the right thing, usually the tattletale, very trustworthy. I came across her cutting her own hair and her sister's hair in the bathroom one night. So yes, I was caught off guard asking, where did that come from? Another example, my son, who's now 11, when he was 10, as they're getting to be that age, they want some independence, and I wanted to give him a little bit of that independence one night, and I needed to go get groceries. Hello, Kroger click list. That is God's gift to moms and dads. Anyway, I offered that if he would like, he could stay home and I would take the girls to go and get our groceries. And he was pretty excited, feeling himself like, yeah, she trusts me, I'm going to stay home. And we go over the rules, don't answer the door, don't play with fire, don't take a bath, don't do anything crazy. If you need me, call me. So I load the girls up, and no sooner are we out of our neighborhood, my son's calling me, and something made a weird noise, and could I just turn around and come and get him? So, we tried. I thought we were on the same page a couple minutes ago, but here we are. Not a big deal, but perhaps when you think about your own parenting experiences and journey, you have a couple moments where you were caught off guard, thinking, where did that come from? And the reason why this kind of stuff happens is, for one, we don't know everything, and 2, we don't anticipate what we don't anticipate. There's some things in life that we can't anticipate. For example, there have been 100 billion people who've lived and died on this earth, giving us 100 billion examples as to what's probably going to happen to our kids. Well, anticipating means looking ahead at what will probably happen and then being prepared for it. So here's a couple of examples. When we think of babies, we're having a baby. What do we know about babies? We know that babies eat, sleep, and poop a lot. So what do we do to prepare for it? We have baby showers, and we get diapers, and we get wipes, and we get bumbos and boppies and bibs and bottles, and we get all the things we could possibly need to make eating, sleeping, and pooping for our babies as easy as possible. Our toddlers are going to need potty trained. So what do? We buy the cute little potties. Some of them even make noise when they go tinkle. We go to the library. We check out books on potty training. We sing songs about potty training. We watch videos. We are building up the excitement of going on the potty for that first time. Our kindergartners are going to start losing their teeth. And we have some parent along the way to thank for inventing the tooth fairy, because we now have something that was once really gross and kind of weird is now something very exciting, and kids actually look forward to it. Your elementary age kids, if they haven't yet already, or if they don't already have one, they will be asking you for a smartphone. So how do we prepare for that? Well, we're talking to our spouse. We're talking to other parents who've gone before us. We're researching parental controls. We're looking into boundaries and safety, and we're starting that conversation with our kids about proper technology use. And our teenagers, they are going to start to learn how to drive. And what do we do to prepare for it? We cry and we lose sleep, but eventually we pull ourselves up and we take them to the DMV, we get them their temp license, and we help them study, and we talk to them about the safety of driving. Now, these are just a couple of examples of things that we can't expect when it comes to our kids. And there are other things that if we paused for a minute to think about them and prepare for them, we would do a lot better job doing so. So why don't we? Well, if you're anything like me and my family, life is busy. Life is busy and life is loud. And when you say that life is busy, that's probably because you're more than someone's parent. You could be someone's boss, you're someone's employee, you're a neighbor, you're a friend, you're a sister, brother, uncle. I personally can find it very easy to focus on my somewhat clingy, in-your-face 4-year-old that I completely forget that my 11-year-old son is upstairs on 3 hours straight of video games, not to mention my 7-year-old who's in the bathroom giving herself some bangs. So parenting wins, what can I say? And when I say that life is loud, I mean this. I mean that we have so many voices competing for our attention, trying to tell us how to parent. You probably have a pediatrician, we have teachers, coaches, pastors, grandparents, news articles, even social media is going to try to tell you how to parent. And if we're not careful, if we don't pause to really consider the things that are coming after our kids, we can really miss some good opportunities.
That's good.
So with that being said, I've got some statistics to share with you. And this can be where it gets a little uncomfortable, but if you would just lean in for a moment and let me share with you some of the stuff that's really going on in our kids' lives. So slide number 1, 38% of middle school boys report using protein supplements. And again, you might be thinking, it's not that bad. It's not my kid. But what does that tell us about the pressures our kids are under to look a certain way in just middle school? Next slide. 17% of high schoolers drink, smoke, or use drugs during the school day. Again, you might be thinking, that's not my kid. I don't have a high schooler yet. But what does that tell us about the stresses that our kids this age are under? Next slide. 14 years old is the average age when a kid begins cutting or self-harm. And next slide. According to the CDC, 61% of 18-year-olds report being sexually active. And last slide, 43% of children have used social media to contact a stranger. So with all this being said, that doesn't mean that we live in fear. And actually anticipating these kinds of things can alleviate some fear. And here's where something called the life map concept comes in. And we can apply this life map concept to critical issues in our kids' lives when it comes to parenting. And the idea is actually quite simple. So the first step is that we're going to identify a critical issue in our kid's life. And then step 2, we're going to determine what we want to be true for our kids' lives with that issue. And then step 3, we're going to map out some steps through the phases, things, conversations we can have, things that we can do that are going to point our child towards the destination that we predetermined in step 2. So we've given a few examples, or we've come up with a couple critical issues that we felt most parents would agree that they are important issues in their kids' lives. And those 4 things are health, sex, technology, and faith. So let's start with health, and we're going to take health through the life map. So 1, health is our critical issue. And what do we want to be true about our kids when it comes to health? We want our kids to have healthy habits. And we define healthy habits as this: learning to strengthen my body through exercise, nutrition, and self-advocacy. So what do? We encourage exercise. We take our kids swimming. We sign them up for sports. I know when they're little and older, we get, the fruits, the vegetables, the proteins on their plates. We're limiting sweets and soda. And as they get older, we're explaining why this is a healthy habit and why this is important for them in their growth of their bodies. All right, let's talk about sex. Let's take sex through the life map concept. So sex is our critical issue. And what do we want to be true about our kids when it comes to sex? We want them to have sexual integrity. And we define sexual integrity as this: guarding my potential for intimacy through appropriate boundaries with mutual respect. So what do? We start the conversation. Most little kids, they're asking, where do babies come from? And these are very simple questions that only require simple answers. You don't got to dive in that young. There are lots of books out there that you can get. I myself have purchased a set of books for my kids to read with them through the phases. As they get older, we're talking about modesty, and really we're laying that foundation of what God created sex for, so they have a biblical sense of what sex is. Technology. If there's anything we've learned these last few years, technology is not going away. If anything, technology is the future. So what do we want our kids to have when it comes to technology? We want them to have technological responsibility. And we define technological responsibility as leveraging the potential for online experiences to enhance their offline community and success. So what do? Parental controls is my first word of advice. Also, we set boundaries. We set time limits. I don't know if you know this, but iPhones, you can shut them down at any given point in time. Also, my son's phone gets shut down about 6:30 every night. So another thing that we do, if you have any gamers at home, if you've got a gaming system, you know that this gaming system actually comes with its own online community. Each game that your kid plays, they can play with anyone from pretty much all over the world, which is really cool, but also very dangerous. So a thing that my husband and I have done at home is that we have made it so my son is able to play these online games, but he's only allowed to communicate with the kids that he knows offline. So he is enhancing his offline community by playing games with his friends online. All right, faith. Last but not least, faith. And faith is what it's all about when it comes to being a Christian parent. Like in Proverbs 22:6, we want to start our children off on the right path of faith. And honestly, this is just too big of a topic to cover in this session today. So Pastor Jesse will be back in the next session to really cover faith, because let's be honest, faith deserves her own session. But for now, what matters is this. If you've never imagined the end, if you haven't ever thought about what you want to be true in your child's life, you're going to end up having a reactive approach to parenting. Without that clear destination, you're going to tend to only focus on the right now, and the right now can be very overwhelming. And without that clear destination, you're going to do whatever makes them happy. Okay, fine, have a piece of candy before dinner, just leave me alone. Been there. Without that clear destination, you tend to fear what you can't control. We fear the unknown, so we don't know, so we don't do anything, and that's not a good place to be either. When you imagine the end, you begin to see things differently. When you know what you want to ultimately be true for your child, it will help you to stay focused, prioritize your efforts, and maintain perspective. And keep this in mind. Each phase will have unique challenges and opportunities when it comes to parenting your child through healthy habits, sexual integrity, and technological responsibility. And actually, each one of these phase guides here, there are scripted things that you should probably talk about with your child. And also, you might be wondering, what if it's too late? Well, the good news is that it doesn't matter where you start. It's where you're going, and you have to start where you are. And also keep in mind that every kid is unique. So these conversations that you're having with each of your kids is going to be one of a kind. And you are also unique and chosen by God to parent your child. So therefore, you are the best judge of what they need to hear and when. And lastly, life is unpredictable. As parents, we simply cannot control the things that happen to our kids and the choices they make. As much as I want to keep my babies in a bubble, I cannot. And this is also not a reason why this life map is a step-by-step guide to guarantee any sort of outcome when it comes to your child. It's just a way for us to reorient the way that we parent each year to help move our kids towards a brighter future. Think about it this way. If you keep the end in mind and you know where you are now, you can always do something that will point your kid in a better direction.